take a motion for our minutes. I have a motion for the minutes. I have a second. Minutes will stand without objection. Madam Clerk, ordinances on first reading, finance.
An ordinance hereinafter, also known as the fiscal year 2023 operations budget, providing revenue for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2022 and ending June 30, 2023, appropriating same to the payment of expenses of the municipal government, fixing the rate of taxation on all taxable property in the city, and the time taxes and privileges are due, how they shall be paid, when they shall become delinquent, providing for interest and penalty on delinquent taxes and privileges, amending Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 2, Section 2267, relative to paid leave for active duty training, and to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 31, Sections 3136, 3137, 3141, and 3143, Sections 31322 and 31354.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Dr. Burrs, we conducted our deliberations this afternoon, and council did take a roll call vote to move forward to vote this evening. Are there any other questions, comments on this item? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, item B, please.
An ordinance appropriating, authorizing, or allocating funds to the capital improvements budgets for this fiscal year 2022-2023.
Seeing no lights, item C, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 11, Section 11186 and 11199, relative to hotels and rooming houses, and shall include short-term vacation rentals and privileged tax leave-out use.
Any questions or comments on this item for tonight's first reading? We did cover this with Mr. Goldberg quite extensively. Seeing none. Resolutions, finance, item A.
A resolution authorizing the city chief finance officer to amend and extend purchase order number 526211 for Harris Computer Systems for a 10-month renewal period from January 1, 2023 to October 31st, 2023, for the purposes of billing and collecting of property taxes for an amount not to exceed $120,853.
Thank you. Seeing no lights. Human resources, item B, please.
A resolution authorizing the Chief Human Resource Officer to renew an agreement with Cigna to provide active city employees with 2 PPO dental plan options and 1 HMO dental plan, wherein dental options for city retirees will consist of both a PPO and an HMO plan option for a contract term of 1 year beginning July 1, 2022, with no renewal terms remaining at the approximate annual employee paid cost of $1,350,000.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Under Mayor's office, will you read items C and D, please?
A resolution to confirm Mayor Kelly's appointment of Eduardo Centurion to a 4-year term on the Chattanooga Land Bank Authority with a term expiration of June 7, 2026. D, a resolution to confirm Mayor Kelly's appointment of Pastor Gary Hathaway to a 4-year term on the Chattanooga Land Bank Authority with a term expiration of June 7, 2026.
Very good. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Under Parks and Outdoors, Councilman Hester, we've covered E, F, G, and H in committee, correct?
That's correct.
All right. If there are no questions or comments on these questions, we've also covered under Public Works and Transportation items I, J, K, L, M, and N. If there are any further questions, we did cover those in committee. I am seeing no lights. If you would take out your purchases, we have 6 this evening, and I believe 1 RFP. If there are any questions on tonight's purchases. Council did receive these purchases early in the week and have had time to ask questions and receive answers. Seeing no lights.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Oh, hi,
There
Brent.
are no RFPs. There's one.
There are no RFPs.
One emergency purchase.
Is it emergency purchase?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yes, sir.
Uh-huh. When I get on a roll, Brent, you gotta help me there, because I'm glad you were. If you would turn to your items on June 14th and take a look at the agenda items. There are a lot of planning cases, which we will cover to this evening very shortly on Councilwoman Hill's committee. I had a question this morning under Resolution 7A, if you read that, as to who was maintaining the pathway, and it was confirmed that the city is maintaining the pathway with the agreement with the state. So that was clarified. And then, Mr. Goldberg, we have obviously a capital improvement as our budget this evening, but we also have for next week a 5-year capital improvement plan. Will you kind of run down what the difference is for us between those two items, please?
Yes, sir. So the capital budget ordinance that is in front of you for fiscal year 23 is the actual appropriation of dollars for specific capital projects. The resolution for the 5-year capital improvement plan shows our current 5-year plan as of today, based on all of the information that we have regarding which projects are prioritized for the departments. But the 5-year plan does change from year to year based on changes in priorities. We're working diligently to be much more strategic about our long-term planning process. So our hope would be to get the 5-year plan to a point where, it doesn't change much from year to year, but it will always change based on changing priorities. For example, based on the events that have happened in the past week, we may want to invest more money in the capital budget for, security equipment next year. So that's just an example of why a priority might change from year to year. But generally, that 5-year plan gives us a roadmap to the projects that we want to complete over the next 5 years.
Is there a dollar amount assigned to the projects at this level, or is there, obviously with rising costs, is there contingencies built in?
Most of there's dollar amounts listed in the attachment for the 5-year plan. So it shows what the current estimated costs are.
Mhm.
Some projects have contingency built in, some don't. Some of the, like larger construction contracts may have contingency built in, but we're not sure if it's enough, until we get there,
Sure.
especially if it's more than a year away.
Very good, which is the need for flexibility. I do have a light for Dr. Burrs. Go ahead, please, ma'am.
Mr. Chair, part of my responsibilities under our committee structure
Mhm.
was for you all to receive regular reports on the capital plan and expenditures.
Yes,
That came out of Ms. Sullivan's former office.
I remember. Yeah.
And we need to start that up again, Brent.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about?
I believe so.
Okay. So what we would get is we would start out going over what the chair is talking about now as our 5-year plan and the monies attached to it.
Mhm.
And then quarterly, we would receive status reports, I guess. So we really should do that again. And we've not received the one relative to the budget. It's just a plan for our bonders. I mean, I get all that,
Yeah.
but we have not reviewed it.
Yeah, we used to receive the quarterly CIP.
Yeah.
And it was helpful in also answering questions back to our constituents
Yep.
on projects that were in the queue, and it helped us track them better too.
Are
Yeah.
you in a position to give that like next week? It's not a very big plan. It's where we stand.
Yeah, I need to go back and look and see how prepared we are to resume that quarterly report.
It's council's approving the budget if in fact they do next week, but the other piece missing is the plan that goes along with that capital budget.
Yeah, and well, the 5-year plan is attached to the resolution for next week's agenda, so that's out there and it's included in
do
the
it then.
binders. That is ready, but in terms of the
Okay.
quarterly reports, we'll have to resume those, especially as we have had everybody come back from COVID. We've got from
If I
being
may,
out of
Mr.
office.
Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
so it's important that council see the 5-year plan because the budget really is only, this council can only bind this for this year.
Yes, ma'am.
Every year there's a new council or a new council year. It doesn't automatically renew. So if we keep up, then there won't be any problems down the road for what I think we probably all agree with. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll redistribute the 5-year plan to make sure it's at the top of everybody's box, and then
Okay.
we'll start resuming those quarterly reports as soon as
Okay.
possible.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for bringing that up. I think Tony, I thought I saw Tony here earlier. Tony was sending those out quarterly, and I think he did a really great job at that. So thank you for bringing that up. There are no other questions on our June 14th. If you would take a look at, I want to stay up there, Mr. Goldberg, future considerations. What's your light? Madam Vice Chair, I see your light.
Yes, Brent, you just on the spotlight today. I had a
It's budget
question.
day.
It's
Budget
budget day,
day.
of course. So I did have a question about finance item B. If you could explain more about the proposed increase from 25,000 to $50,000 for bids and expenditures.
Yes, ma'am. So the request is to have an ordinance to increase the bid threshold, which is also the council approval threshold, from 25,000 to 50,000. Senate Bill 2489 was passed by the General Assembly in the most recent session. It was signed into law by Governor Lee on May 11th of this year. This law allows cities across the state to increase the threshold, by ordinance from 25 to 50,000. Cities that have centralized procurement, which we do. The 25,000 amount was set through the Municipal Purchasing Law of 1983. So if you take $25,000 in 1983 and adjust it for inflation, that would be around $73,000 today. I would love to raise it to that amount, but the state is only going to allow us to raise it to 50 if you all approve. Just some other information about that. In the past 6 months, December 1st through May 31st, 173 purchases were presented to council for approval. Of those, 73% were over $50,000. The others were under 50,000, somewhere between 25 and 50. So already almost 3/4 of purchases that we bring to you are over $50,000 anyway. Shelby County and Knox counties have used 50,000 for a few years. Memphis now uses 50,000. I expect most cities with centralized procurement to go in this direction and move to the $50,000 mark, because things just cost more now than they did in 1983. And what we're having to spend a lot of time, effort, and money on sealed bid processes for things which are relatively small dollar in terms of needing to bid it out. So the bid threshold is the big thing. By increasing the bid threshold, it'll actually allow small businesses and minority businesses to have a better chance of getting city work, because the bid process is a barrier for many small businesses, because it's arduous and it takes a lot of time. Excuse me. So raising the threshold would be beneficial as we seek to increase city contracts for small and minority businesses. And then finally, it's going to be more effective and responsive government for us. Like I said, the amount of time and effort it takes to go through the bid process is, anytime you want to procure anything over 25,000, which in today's dollars, most everything we're doing is over 25,000. If it's any kind of significant project, that bid process, adds about a month to the timeline, and we can be more efficient, more effective if we, can. Those things between $20,000 and $50,000 could be done based on 3 quotes instead of a full bid process.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Dr. Burris?
So I understand what you're saying about the bid process. What about council approval?
It would be the same.
Council approval would still be at 25?
It would be at 50.
It would be at 50.
Yeah.
And so because we've had so many questions about that, I think it's something that I just wanted on record, all of us to understand that we would not be able to approve unless it was over $50,000.
Correct. And 75% of purchases we bring to you are over 50,000 anyway. So there's there are a total of, over the past 6 months, there would have been 46 out of 173 that we would not have brought to you if the limit was 50.
You good, Dr. Burrs?
Yeah, I
All
just
right.
wanted that on the record.
Thank you. In conversation, I'll save my comments. Councilman Smith, I see your light, sir. I'm so sorry. Try again.
Okay, we're good. Thank you, Brent. So just to piggyback on that question, Brent, I totally get and understand both of these. You are planning, based on how I'm reading this, on a single ordinance to account for both. Would it be a problem to separate those in case we have council members that are not okay with one but okay with the other?
I mean, we probably need to get the city attorney's office to look at that. The bid threshold and the council threshold have always been the same. That's certainly the preference of the administration for just expediency of how we operate. That's a question for the city attorney.
Well, when we increased from 10,000 to 25,000 back in 2013, did we increase bid threshold at the same time to keep those in sync?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I would be interested to know if we can separate those out. I know there's been some concern over raising the approval threshold among council, and maybe it's fine and everybody's good with it, but I want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to voice their opinion, even if they're in favor of the bid threshold. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilman Smith. My comments on this particular item was understanding 1983 was the last time. Did I hear that, or did I heard 2013?
Well,
Okay.
we could have approved it.
Um,
There was a difference between the state law and what the city had allowed.
Okay. One of the benefits that I found very interesting was the ability to award contracts to small businesses on a much easier platform than we're doing it now. And as this council has discussed in the past, that's always been a barrier, that bidding process. And I, in a past life, I experienced that myself, and it's just a very tedious process. So I think in order to open up the ability to do business with the city and make it a much easier process, it makes sense to me on that regard. But please look into the comments and questions that council has brought forth. Dr. Burrs, is that your light one more time?
Yes?
You're on.
Okay. Yeah, I agree that it might be a good idea to look at splitting the two if that can be legally done. I want everyone to have the benefit of the easiest process possible for us to award. The level of trust with approval needs a little more work, not of y'all, just in general. And so it might be easier if they were split. It's just something to look at. I agree with Councilman Smith.
We'll certainly look at it.
Okay.
That having two different amounts will make it more difficult for operations. And it might very well be that we would prefer to leave it the same rather than split it, just because of the way we're set up to do procurement and to operate.
And maybe there would be an explanation of how it does operate, which would alleviate the concerns that people might have. We've never had a presentation on that.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Any other comments on that particular item and future considerations? Chief Scruggs, I had one this morning on the police item under B1. I think you might have a little follow-up on that.
Yes, sir. The question was what the funding was for the grant.
Yes, sir.
So this grant is for our Special Operations Bureau primarily, with connection to our traffic division. Is to fund their overtime process and this project they're working on, and also to buy printed materials, swag giveaway to reinforce their efforts on traffic safety regarding pedestrians and cyclists.
Okay. So this is traffic-related grant. All right.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Thank you.
All
Appreciate
right.
the update. Any other questions or comments in future considerations? Tom, there is a large dollar amount, if you want to take just 30 seconds and explain to us what Jacobs does for us. This is a $3.4 million contract that will be a resolution contract coming through to us. And I want to make sure that our council members have a full understanding of what Jacobs does for us in relation to the consent decree.
Thank you. If you all saw me limping, my foot went to sleep and I almost fell over.
At least your toe's not broken. I'm sorry, Doctor. Sorry, Dr. Burrs.
I'm sorry, that wasn't a setup. It really wasn't. Thank you, Chairman. So as you all know, Jacobs has been working with us on our consent decree program, both master planning overall advice, and then also managing the design and construction program for individual projects, some of which, of course, are very large. This is not a renewal. This is a new award, went through a RFP process, and they were determined to be the best firm to continue this work. And it is a large amount, but it's a large program they help us oversee, and in many cases have hands-on management authority.
Jacob's been with us since day one, I believe.
I believe that's true, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And I might add, they've done a very, very good job in working through lots of difficult issues on that program.
Sure. And I know that they've made presentations to council in the past and probably will give us an update, I'm anticipating, rather, in the future.
Definitely will. We have that actually, we're looking to do that at our next Public Works committee meeting. If we'll get that scheduled.
Very good. Thank
Okay.
you. Awesome. All right. Any other questions or comments on future considerations? Councilwoman Coonrod.
Thank you. My question was that, have Jacobs gotten us compliant with the consent decree? And, I mean, we've hadn't had a lot to come through recently, but a lot of those projects, we hadn't been compliant. Like, when they give us an update, can they tell us where we are with the being in compliant? How many more projects that we need worked on before we get to compliant?
Yes, they will. As a matter of fact, that's probably the cornerstone of their typical presentation, is they show through not just one consent decree, but two consent decrees, if you look back far enough. And they'll show you there are actually two construction projects that, with approval from the feds, are holdovers from the first consent decree program. But they have very nice graphics of showing how many projects are in pre-design, how many projects are in design, how many in construction, and others still pending. But it's good news. It's a huge program, and there are a lot of individual projects, separate projects that need separate attention. But our staff in wastewater and our staff in city engineering and Jacobs have been doing a very good job of keeping all the projects on schedule. So in general, the short answer is we are on schedule with the expectations and the agreement we've made with the federal government.
Okay, and just one last request. If you could get them to give us an update about that Shalaford Road, because that was a part of the consent decree that we still are having problems with
Yes.
when it rains. So I would like an update on that.
Yeah, and that's part of it until completely finished with the consent decree program and all those projects. And then other projects as well, even outside the consent decree program, we will continue to have issues with combined sewer overflow and spills due to breaks. Until it's done, we'll still see those issues.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good, Councilwoman. Thank you for the question. Any other questions or comments? We do not have a department report this afternoon. We do have Planning and Zoning Committee meeting with Chairwoman Hill. Let me announce real quickly before we go into committee that I have asked Chief Murphy to address council again this evening at the end of our regular business meeting. Chairman Hill, are you ready? All right. Stay tuned for planning and zoning. This is painful. I'm letting it go. I'm letting it go. Woo.
All right, first, can I get a motion on our minutes? Thank you. Okay, so as mentioned at our agenda or our strategic planning, we are reorganizing the way that this meeting works. We're trying out this structure that Councilman Ledford gave a shot last month. So you all have a copy of our agenda that includes a reorganized list of cases based on whether or not they had opposition at Planning Commission. So Karen's going to take us through those. In addition, please know that if you have questions on any cases, we will cover them while we are all here today. I have had a request from Councilwoman Dotley, Ms. Rennick, to cover case 2022-0114, the Ben Parker case. Does anyone else have a case right now that you know you'd like to get a presentation on? Okay, all right. Karen, we'll just let you take it away then. So we're going to start with item E, which is case 2022-0103.
Hold on one second.
This first case is the only case that the Planning Commission heard that comes with a recommendation to deny. All other cases, there was some kind of consensus recommended.
And I could use some assistance with the remote. Oh, never mind. Thank you. Yes, this is the first case that, or the only case that had a recommendation to deny. This is a rezoning of property from R4 to C2 convenience
Karen,
commercial
can you
zone.
hold for a minute? We don't
Yes.
have any presentation on our screens yet. Or what? Or Karen's. We're good. Are you good? We still need one at the clerk's desk, please. Are you live, Karen? No. You give me a thumbs up when you've got it. Okay, now we're ready. Thank you, Karen.
Okay, this is the first of several cases in the Airport Road, airport area. The property is about a block north of Lee Highway, and the light yellow on the map is the R1 zoning. And the property across Airport Road is predominantly zoned C2 commercial in the red color. The land use pattern reflects the zoning for the most part, with single-family residential immediately abutting the site, and their office is near the site on the west of Airport Road, and a mix of commercial and some kind of heavier commercial uses on the across from the site in that commercial zoning area. So staff found that except for the two immediately abutting single-family residential dwellings, this area along the west side of Airport Road has transitioned into commercial and office uses. And staff noted the request is compatible with the airport district plan surrounding land uses and development form, and the plan recommends a light industrial mix for the site. The applicant was not present at Planning Commission during the hearing for the case, although I did speak with the applicant at the end of the meeting. There was opposition present. There were two residents that are close to this property, and they're noted just concerns of all-day activity, noise, traffic, smells. Apparently, there'd been a party on the site, and that just a restaurant next door to the residential uses were not appropriate. And also noted there was a full neighborhood behind the site of the proposed rezoning. Planning Commission found that the request would have a negative impact on those adjacent single-family detached residences. And although the eastern side of Airport Road will transition to commercial uses, it's not appropriate at this time for rezoning to C2. And noted that we'd be putting a restaurant in the neighborhood and there is a need to protect homeowners. So this comes with a Planning Commission recommendation to deny the rezoning.
Council, do we have any questions? Looks like Councilwoman Burrs. There you go. Mhm.
So I'll defer to Councilman Hester at all. Right now, that's in his district. But is Dan here? Yeah. We've been working on an airport overlay plan, and there's been all kinds of work done. And I would respectfully request, and I think Councilman Hester would probably feel the same way, he can speak for himself, that until we get that all worked out, that we not just willy-nilly rezone, because there's a much bigger picture out there. Does that make sense? Yeah. That's all I have to say. It's right now, it's in his district.
Okay. Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Hester?
I agree with your assessment. I think it shouldn't be a rezone at this time, as the Planning Commission recommendation to deny. I've been over there, and the residents, I've spoken to them all their frustration too from just going over there. Thanks.
Councilwoman Coonrod?
Thank you, Chair. Is there a plan that you all go by when making the decisions? Now, I agree with the recommendation, but is that this same type rezoning will come for a different neighborhood, and we're just gonna say Mary's? That's right in the middle, right on the corner. Macaulay is commercial, it's a restaurant, the smell, the party, and the residential. Now, are we gonna have the same approach from this to other areas to say the same thing to protect homeowners? Because it's got to be consistent. We can't say, okay, not in this area, but then come to Eastdale, then hey, you're gonna say, okay, it's appropriate to agree to rezone it. Can we get some kind of consistency?
So we do have area plans in different parts of the city. And in some parts of the city, they're older. They're maybe 10 or 15 years old. And that data is, it needs to be kept current as much as possible. In this particular area, we've met a couple times with the residents. We absolutely need to update the Shepherd community area, the Shepherd community plan. There's also, obviously a lot of things to consider with regard to the airport itself and property adjoining the airport. It's a commercial area, and of course, Brainerd and East Lee Highway. So it's a very complicated area. But in doing that, we want to make sure we protect a very historic neighborhood and Shepherd community. And so we've been having a couple meetings with them, and we will absolutely revisit all of the land use questions with them in the coming months around this particular spot on Airport Road. With regard to all the other areas of the city, we are in the process of hiring or doing an RFP to hire a consultant team that will absolutely go back and look at all areas of the city in the coming year and try to update our planning for policy and long-term growth in the city. And as much as possible, we will try to get down to a very small community level, because as long as we're kind of painting things with a broad brush, there's always going to be these questions of whether something belongs like a restaurant in a very specific place versus some other part of the city. And to the degree that we can get into neighborhood level planning in the coming year or two, it's going to be very helpful. So I completely agree that we should be consistent, and we should be considering our plans and have similar policy from one area to another.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
Madam Chair, if I may, Councilwoman, just so everyone is aware, I made the motion. I sit on the Planning Commission for the mayor, and I made the motion to deny this, and it was passed unanimously. And the reason was we had a preponderance of people in the neighborhood saying that it was and proving and demonstrating it was causing disruption to the calm life in the neighborhood. On your question of will every case be treated like that? Well, no, every case is different. In one location, a restaurant near a neighborhood might be 500 feet away from the nearest house, and it might be 100. So that's why the Planning Commission every month spends an entire day, and the meeting goes later than the courthouse staff is still in the building. As Chairman Ledford knows well. That's why we go through every single one of the cases for the city and the county and for Walden and for Lakeside that the staff spends countless hours on before they get to us. But it's worth noting that the final decision on zoning rests not with the Planning Commission, not with staff, but this body. So we merely make recommendations. The decisions are still up to all of you.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Councilman Ledford.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to really echo Mr. Anderson's comments. When you look at a staff recommendation, historically, for us to, coming from an approval to a deny, coming from Planning Commission, that's a testament of some good work happening right there. Some good conversation and a really good support of what the Planning Commission does. And I just want to make a note of that. That's not a normal thing we would see come in that order. Usually it's the other way around. Thank you.
And I'll point out that this case, the restaurant that was operating in this area is actually out of compliance with their zoning, which was why they had applied. So they were illegally operating a restaurant. It had created significant hardship for the R1 residents on either side of the home. And so I think that really spoke loudly to the Planning Commission as those residents stated their concerns about their quality of life. Any other questions about this case? No? Okay. Oh, Councilwoman?
Want to just reiterate again, like I totally understand the why. So I don't want your feedback for me to come across as if, you're treating me like a child, like I can really comprehend it. I just had concerns about if it would be consistent, in which I hope that the same advocacy will be across the board for the entire city and not just in certain communities, right? Because we hear it all the time from people coming up here from that Orchard Knob community talking about Mary's. They right in the back of the alley is people, homeowners. We're hearing about this business that's over here in the Brainerd area that we homeowners in the 300,000 plus complaining about it. But that's, and it's the same thing that the opposition at this one is. So I totally understand. I'm in agreement with it. I just hope that it's this same denial ongoing when it comes to these type things being in communities.
Thank you. Okay, Karen, if you can move forward, please, with case number 0116.
Okay, this is H6H. This is also in the general vicinity. Request to rezone from R1 to R3 residential zone for a multifamily residential development with 26 units. The property is just west of Lee Highway and Airport Road on Pine Grove Trail. The neighborhood on the north and west are zoned R1, and that's shown in the light yellow, and commercial zoning of Lee Highway is shown in the red there. This is about a block east of the airport. It's a mix of office and commercial uses along Airport Road and Lee Highway with residential uses in the R1 zone. Staff found that the proposed R3 zone is compatible with the airport district plan and neighboring non-residential uses in development form. The plan recommends mixed-use corridor and supports the transition to multifamily residential, sufficient density to support transit. Staff recommended conditions increasing the landscape buffer and limiting the building height to limit nuisances to the single-family neighborhood. There was opposition present, spoke to crime and accidents, but I think particularly to traffic safety at the intersection with Airport Road and Lee Highway. There were several comments about that. Planning Commission found the request is compatible with the plan and development form, and it comes with a recommendation to approve. This is carrying over the condition recommended by staff for a type B landscape buffer and a minimum 2-story building height within 50 feet of the shared property line, and that is the shared property line to the west there with the neighborhood.
Thank you, Karen. Do you have any questions? Councilman Hester, you good?
I'm good.
You're good? Okay. All right. Thank you, Karen.
The next case is, this case and the next one are for the same property. The next case is under resolutions for planned unit development. This is to amend conditions of a rezoning ordinance from 2021 when this was zoned to RTZ, Residential Townhouse Zero Lot Line Zone. The proposal is a single-family residential detached development. The property is on Faith Road, which is off Youngstown Road. The site was rezoned to RTZ, and as mentioned, the conditions relate to that rezoning. The property is close to South Chickamauga Creek. The rezoning conditions from the prior case, the first one is provide a minimum of 7 acres of undisturbed open space. The applicant would like to lift that condition and replace it with provide a minimum of 4 acres of undisturbed open space. So I should probably say it's probably more of an amendment to an existing condition. The applicant noted the amendment is necessary to provide area for required stormwater detention ponds and associated grading activities. The other 3 conditions are intended to remain in place. There was opposition, there was opposition at Planning Commission. Many of the comments were related to environmental concerns for the site and its location on the creek, related to source of drinking water, wanting to protect wetlands, no development in the floodplain, buffers along the greenway. Probably summarize the comments. Planning Commission found the request to amend the condition would be appropriate, and the reduction of required open space from 7 acres to 4 acres would not increase the density of the site. So this comes with a recommendation from Planning Commission to amend it from a minimum of 7 acres to a minimum of 4 acres.
Councilman Hester.
I'm wondering, initially, it was 7 acres, now it's 4. It probably would have been approved under 4 acres originally, correct?
I don't know the history of when that entered the equation, whether that was provided by the applicant, identified by staff, Planning Commission, or council. But I can cover the residential PUD, which is the next case, and that might provide a little clarity or at least provide some more information.
My understanding that they volunteered the 7 acres initially, right?
I am not certain if that came from the applicant, but I will check and have that information for the next meeting, and I'll email you to let you know.
Okay, thank you.
At Planning Commission, the applicant did say they had offered that 7 acres.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's take a look, Karen, at the PUD.
Okay, so the PUD did not have specific comments. I think most of the comments were contained with the lifting of conditions. So on that same site, off Faith Road, you just saw that is zoned RTZ with conditions. The applicant is proposing or is requesting a permit for a residential planned unit development with a density of 3.49 units an acre. The condition that is remaining on the underlying RTZ is 5 units an acre, so the proposed density of the PUD is less than is allowed with the zone with conditions. Breeze through those. The Planning Commission found the request is compatible with the adopted Highway 58 plan, and that the PUD is reflective of the conditions placed on the property through the prior rezoning of the property. It comes with a recommendation to approve the special exceptions permit for a residential PUD. So the PUD itself reflects those remaining conditions that are as part of the zone.
Councilman Hester, any questions?
No question.
Nope.
No, thanks.
Okay. All right, let's move on to 104, please, Karen.
This is 6J on your agenda. It's a request to rezone property from R1 residential to R2 residential to bring a non-conforming duplex into compliance. It's on 1412 East 49th Street. The property is surrounding property is zoned R1. The site is highlighted in red there. The proposed R2 zone would introduce a higher density zone in the neighborhood, but the structure has historically been used as a duplex according to the applicant. The site's approximately 950 feet to the east of Hooker Road, and surrounding land uses consist of single-family residences on all sides. And there's just a picture of the site. One of the comments that was stated by the opposition was the notice sign was removed, but our staff picture does show a notice sign in place at the time that we did a site visit. Staff found the request is compatible with the plan and neighboring development form, and the structure has been used as a duplex historically. Therefore, the form of the structure is not changing and would maintain a pattern that had been present in the neighborhood. So staff recommendation is approved. Folks in opposition noticed it was not built as a duplex. We believe that's because it has one front door is shown there. It does have 2 mailboxes, and I believe the staff review noted it had two electric boxes. That also parking, trash, and again, the concern that the notice sign had been removed at some point. Planning Commission found the request is compatible, very similar findings to staff, and is recommending approval of the rezoning to R2 to allow this to be brought back into compliance.
I'll add that at Planning Commission, the applicant made the point that the front door actually goes in and there are two more doors, and that the property had in fact been built as a duplex. Is there anyone that has any questions? Councilwoman Dotley.
Yes, thank you so much, Karen, and Councilwoman, not Councilwoman, Chairwoman. Could Wesley Thompson is the developer of this, or?
I believe it's the applicant
Applicant.
and the property owner, but I can confirm that.
Okay.
If you, I have that in my packet, and I can follow up with you after the meeting.
Okay, I would like to speak to this applicant. I hadn't heard anything, so
Okay.
I was surprised to hear there was opposition, but I would like to hear from the applicant.
Okay, I will ask him to contact you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? No? Okay. Karen, please move forward with 0123.
And that's 6M on your agenda. And this is a rezoning from R2 to RTZ residential townhouse zero lot line zone for a 4-unit townhome. The site is on the I-24 right-of-way in the Ridge Cut at 1817 Ridgewood Drive. You can see the right-of-way is also orange, which is the R2 residential zone. The site's a little bit less than half an acre, and it's the development to the east and south, a single-family residential development. There is no adopted land use plan, and staff did note that the current zoning will allow the applicant to develop a 2-unit townhouse or 2-family dwelling, which could be compatible at this location. There was quite a bit of opposition present. Particular concerns about the narrow road. The neighbors weren't interested in townhome development, concerned about erosion and traffic. Planning Commission found the request was compatible with a countywide plan. We don't have a neighborhood plan specific to this area, development form and adjacent uses, and comes with a recommendation to approve.
Councilwoman, do you have any questions? No? Okay. All right, let's go ahead and move to item K, please. 2022-0114 Ben Parker Company in
Okay.
District 7.
Give me one moment to get there. Okay. This is case 2022-114, and it's a rezoning on South Hickory Street. The request is to lift landscape buffering and screening related conditions from a 1995 rezoning ordinance to M1. The applicant noted on the application they would like to use current screening requirements found in the zoning ordinance. The conditions of the rezoning ordinance for 1995 are referencing sections of the Chattanooga zoning ordinance that have since been removed. So the 1995 ordinance, let me grab my paperwork here. The 1995 ordinance comes with 2 conditions. One is subject to the landscaping screening along Hickory Street in accordance with the provisions of Article 5, Section 1004, and 2 is the all existing easements are retained. And when you reference that section of the zoning ordinance, you're looking at some screening requirements that sometime in the past 25 years have been removed, and we're now deferring to the requirements of the zone of the the landscaping regulations in the zoning ordinance. So staff and planning commission found the request is compatible with the plan development form adjacent land uses, and that development of the site would be required to comply with current landscape regulations. So instead of referencing regulations that have been removed sometime in the past 25 years, founding that it was acceptable to let the existing standards apply. and we did not have opposition to the case. And I don't have a copy of the existing regulations that are currently in the zoning ordinance, but I can provide those and have those for the next meeting. But I think instead of conditions that are not in the zoning ordinance now, but to let them use the same standards that anyone developing at this time would be using.
You good, Councilwoman Dotley? Okay. Does anyone else have a case that you would like to have a presentation on? Councilman Ledford?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Karen, item D on Givens Road in District 4, there was a letter. I had put the Reunion Homeowners Association president and had submitted. Did you see anything? Are you familiar with the letter? Did you see anything in the conditions that would cause concern, or the conditions addressed paired up with that letter?
We do have, and I believe as part of my presentation, I have a copy of the Reunion Neighborhoods proposed conditions.
Yes.
And I can pull those up.
So the crux of my question is, do the conditions, I guess, mirror the concerns or conditions in the letter, in your opinion?
The conditions provided, I do not have a full informed answer. The conditions provided by the Reunion Neighborhood Association are pretty robust, and just at a first pass can have language that we don't normally use as part of our conditions. We might use a different language found in the zoning ordinance or other definitions.
Okay.
But we can do I can do like a one-to-one kind of comparison to say where they meet up and if it would be similar.
If you don't mind, could you put your eyes on that, please?
Yes.
And let me know if you see any issues there. And if so, any suggestions would be welcome. It's a great project. I understand it completely. Just want to make sure that the applicant understands and the conditions address the outlines of the Reunion neighborhood. So,
I think the Reunion talked about kind of preservation of the eastern side, and we would probably just want to clarify a little
yeah,
bit what that might
does
look
that
like.
mean? And I think there's some halfway language, like halfway. What does that exactly mean?
Correct.
Halfway. I know someone would say 50%, but I've seen negotiations on halfway go into different percentages. So, all right. If you
Yes.
would, that would be great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Do I have any other council members with a request for a presentation? Okay, seeing no lights, Karen, would you please make a note on case B, number 0120? That's in my district. Would you please ask that applicant to reach out to me?
I will.
Thank you. Oh, Councilwoman Knoll.
Okay. Am I jumping the gun? Have you gotten down to 0108 yet?
We can do that one for you. That's item L.
Okay.
And yes, if you'd like a presentation, we're happy to do
Yeah.
one for that's number 0108.
Okay, this is on Benton Avenue, request to rezone from M2 to C2 for retail commercial uses. There was no opposition. It is it's on Holtzclaw, directly across from the National Cemetery. Excuse me, let's get forward. So it's kind of a mix of uses. There's been quite a bit of development in the area, in the kind of north of Main Street in the Holtzclaw area. The staff had noted that the C2 convenience commercial zone requested by the applicant doesn't promote the development form found in the area plan, and recommended UGC with conditions in order to support the plan's recommendations. And the UGC zone has been used quite a bit as an urban development tool. Staff also recommended limiting some of the more intense uses, some of those more intense commercial uses, due to the location of the National Cemetery. And that is something that is consistent with what staff has been recommending when there is a rezoning of a property near the cemetery, just to be aware of the activity occurring there. There was no opposition, but the applicant did speak to the need for the C2 convenience commercial zone rather than the urban general commercial zone. Planning Commission found that compelling and found that the requested C2 zone was compatible with the plan, recommended approval, and carried over the zoning condition, which is the limiting those more intense uses. So auto-oriented uses, wholesaling with accessory warehousing, self-storage, self-service storage, and adult-oriented establishments are prohibited. And at the next week's meeting, the applicant might be able to speak more fully to why the C2 zone met their needs, and it was related to some of the standards in the zone.
Okay, is there any homes near there?
There are, let me go back. So there is, so let's start with the zoning. That manufacturing zone, you're seeing the larger manufacturing zone. The UGC to the west of Holtzclaw, there is kind of a mix of uses, and the north of the site is the old Lucy, I call it the Lucy Boiler site. I don't know what it's called now. And then the residential behind it. So it is kind of surrounded to the immediate surrounding uses are kind of a mix of uses, but there is single family residential detached about a block to the east.
Okay.
So a lot of the, they want to do retail and commercial uses. So the C2 and UGC zones would allow kind of a wide range of commercial uses. And they have not narrowed down, nor does the condition narrow it down more than prohibiting some of those more intense uses. But I think there, if I remember correctly, the applicant's concern was needing the standards of the C2 zone separate from the UGC based on their existing site and their proposed development.
Okay, I'd like to have a conversation with the homeowners that in the rear of there.
Councilwoman, would you like to have the applicant give you a call as well?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have them call, and would you like me to mention that just that particularly being able to speak to the residential development to the east? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, if everybody's good, which it looks like they are, Karen, I think we are finished. So I move to adjourn. We are adjourned. All right. Thanks, everybody. Till 6. Oh, do I really get to? Oh, do I have to-